Hello everyone, this is Coach Tanner, and in today's video, we're going to be going over how to get the best settings for your Overwatch 2 gameplay. Just one thing real quick, we are launching the GameLeap website for Overwatch 2 this month with step-by-step courses and strategies for every single hero. We'll make sure that it's way better and way more in-depth than anything out there on YouTube. Make sure you pre-order your sub right now at 50% off by clicking the link below. With that being said, let's hop right into our list. To start off, we're actually going to be in the accessibility tabs in our settings. Now here, we're going to turn our camera shake on reduced. This is going to remove the amount of camera shake that happens whenever you are getting hit by certain things. It's going to make it much easier to aim precisely. You are also going to want to have HUD shake off and reduced movement on. Now, over in our video settings is where the fun really starts. This is probably the most important setting that you will come across. Now, that is display mode here. You do not want this on windowed and you do not want it on borderless windowed. The reason that you don't want it on borderless or windowed mode is because you incur a large input delay if you have those on. So for the lowest amount of input delay, which means the fastest time from your click to the gun shooting in game, you want full screen to be on. For your target display, that is whatever monitor you are using in front of you. For your resolution, you want this to be as high as your monitor goes. For example, mine is 1920 by 1080. And for your refresh rate, which is in parentheses, you want that as well as high as your monitor goes, and that is 240 for mine. For your field of view, this should always be maxed out in most games that you play. For your aspect ratio, 16:9 is the aspect ratio in which my monitor is native. So I'm going to be using that. Now, up next, we have a really important thing, dynamic render scale. What this means is if your game is set to automatic or custom, it will have a minimum and maximum resolution that your game can be at. And what this means is 100% means it's perfectly clear. Anything above that is going to add unnecessary lag. And anything below 100% is going to start looking a little bit pixelated the lower you go. So whenever you have a bad computer and a lot of things are happening on the screen, what you can do is you have a custom frame rate and a custom render scale. And what this does is you have your desired frame rate. So for example, if you have a bad computer and you really want to get 60 FPS, but you're struggling to get 60 FPS, you can set your desired frame rate to 60 FPS. The maximum doesn't matter because this will just cap your frames if you have it lower. So your desired frame rate is 60 FPS. And if you go below this FPS, the game will automatically make your game a little bit more blurrier so that you can get the desired frame rate. So what you're doing is you're trading off looks for smoothness with these options here. And depending on your computer strengths, you're going to want to tinker with this so that you can have the desired blurriness to the FPS that you really want. Up next, we have VSync. And what VSync does is it adds some input latency so that your game will be a bit more smoother. And that's why we're turning it off. Triple buffering adds even more input latency to achieve a smoother frame rate if you have VSync on. So again, both of these options should be off. Up next, we have reduced buffering, which should be on. This is intended to lower your input delay if your FPS is exceeding your monitor's refresh rate. So for example, if I was getting more than 240 FPS, this would lower my input lag. After this, we have NVIDIA Reflex. Now, enabled and enabled plus boost are nearly the same thing for good computers. But if you have a worse computer and you're struggling to get FPS, you're going to want to turn on enabled plus boost. For your gamma correction, contrast, and brightness settings, these are completely up to you for however your monitor displays your game. Up next, we have our graphics quality, and this one should be pretty obvious. If you want the highest FPS, you want the lowest graphics possible. And that is going to be low in almost every single thing. There are a few settings that won't affect your FPS as much, but again, if you don't mind the look of the game on low, then it's best that you just keep everything on low or off. For example, on shadow detail and dynamic reflections. For shadow detail, I would actually suggest you turn this on low because there are some situations in which you could see somebody's shadow around a corner if they're crouching, but it's very minimal in the effect that it has on your FPS. And for the rest of your options, you want them on low or off. In the details tab, you want to turn on display performance stats and you want to turn on show frame rate. The others don't matter as much unless you know what they mean, but your frame rate is what's important. And if you're getting less frame rate than you desire, then you need to change some of your settings up. For your sound, this is completely preferential for how your system works. Everybody will have a different sound. For your controls, your sensitivity is the most important setting in your controls along with your crosshair here. Now, both of these are going to be personal preference, but I would highly suggest that you stick within a range of 800 DPI and 3 sensitivity to 800 DPI and 8 sensitivity. This is a really good range because it allows for players with very high sensitivity to still excel, but also allows players that need a little bit more time to aim to have this slower sensitivity like I do. This next section is for controllers, and you don't need to use it unless you play with controller, obviously. Now for your crosshair is again personal preference, but a very solid crosshair that I love to use is 8.8, and another great crosshair would be one with a center dot. The next section we have here is allied health bars. This should stay on default. And for this next option, show friendly outlines, I actually find that it's very good if you have this on always. What it does is it will always show your teammates' outlines through the walls, no matter where they are. This allows you to get a good sense of how many people are still in a team fight while you're running back from spawn. And the rest of your controls are again personal preference here. So up next we have the gameplay tab, and we're going to go all the way to the bottom here in miscellaneous, where we enable high precision mouse input. We want this on as it helps the game get better inputs from our mouse, allowing us to aim better. And for the HUD section, there is one thing that I changed that helps me a lot, and that is the waypoint opacity and the respawn icon opacity. We want to set these below 50% because a lot of the times whenever you are aiming at the King of the Hill objective, there'll be a huge A in your screen and you won't be able to see anything behind it. So that can be very detrimental in actually helping you see things. So I like to set these to about 20%, but you can set them higher if you need to. And that is all I have for you guys. Thank you all for watching, and I hope this helps you squeeze more FPS out of your system, and I will see you guys in the next video. Just one thing real quick. We are launching the GameLeap website for Overwatch 2 this month with step-by-step courses and strategies for every single hero. We'll make sure that it's way better and way more in-depth than anything out there on YouTube. Make sure you pre-order your sub right now at 50% off by clicking the link below.